want us to talk about Mr. Cummings and him talking about preventative medicine and how we need to take care of our people. And I want to start with how we need to not focus on buying cars and yellow machines, but human capital development and human capacity development. And that's the path that we should be going in, not the path we're going in right now.
Thank you, Peter. So that's it. I'm going to go ahead and play this video really quickly, and then we're going to elaborate on this particular, what's possible, what is possible. I know there's a saying that goes that knowledge is limited. The reason knowledge is limited is you only know what you know, but it is vision that encompasses the word. It is vision that takes us to our next height that we've never been before. Okay, so let's pull this up and see where we are. Hopefully I got it up. Where is the pin? I think this is you know what really funny is, Peter, our children in 7th grade study this in the United States, how the change that it brought.
Ships spend months sailing all the way around South America, separated by just a few kilometers of land. Ships spend months sailing all the way around South America. But what if you could cut straight through? Right here in Panama, humanity decided to attempt the impossible. Yet what began as a grand plan nearly became the most expensive catastrophe in history. And only one brilliant discovery saved everything. Right now, in this very place, a giant container ship is slowly gliding into the locks. In just a few hours, it will emerge in a completely different ocean. It looks almost routine today, but behind every meter of this waterway lies one of the most dramatic stories of the 20th century. Before the canal was built, ships had to make a gigantic detour around Cape Horn.
We can't see the video. We cannot see the video, y'all.
Hurricanes and the constant risk of shipwreck. The journey from New York to San Francisco took more than 2 months. It was slow, expensive, and deadly. It was on this narrow strip of land, where the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans almost touch, that humanity decided to carve a shipping canal. Not a tunnel, not a bridge. A direct waterway through the continent. This promised to transform global trade, military strategy, and the entire geography of the planet. In 1881, the French took on the project, led by Ferdinand de Lesseps, the man who had already built the Suez Canal. Their plan seemed flawless, a sea-level canal with no locks. Just cut a straight path from one ocean to the other. But Panama was nothing like Egypt. Instead of flat desert, there were dense tropical jungles, a towering mountain range that had to be literally chewed through, and the Chagres River, which turned into a raging torrent during the rainy season. Heavy rains caused constant landslides. The ground literally slid beneath their feet. The deadliest problem of all was tropical disease, yellow fever and malaria. At the time, no one understood that mosquitoes were carrying the deadly pathogens. Workers died by the dozens, then by the hundreds, then by the thousands. By 1889, the entire French project had collapsed. The company went bankrupt. 22,000 people died. All that remained were rusting machines, abandoned excavations in the rock. 15 years later, the Americans stepped in. In 1904, the United States purchased the rights to the project and took full control. Chief Engineer John Stevens quickly realized they could not repeat the French mistakes. The Americans abandoned the idea of a sea-level canal and made a revolutionary decision to build the canal with locks. Ships would rise to an artificial lake in the center of the isthmus and then descend on the other side. Instead of fighting every rock and endless landslides, they turned nature into an ally. Even after that, nature refused to surrender. The hardest section became the Culebra Cut, a massive trench almost 13 kilometers long and up to 82 meters deep. The slopes turned out to be extremely unstable. Every day, explosions and excavators removed thousands of tons of rock. But after heavy rains, the slopes would begin to slide and collapse. The largest landslide in 1907 buried entire sections of the railroad and machinery. Trains carried away the soil almost without stopping. At peak times, up to 160 trains per day. The price of this struggle was enormous. Even with all the sanitary measures, during the years of construction, the Americans lost about 5,600 people from accidents, landslides, explosions, and exhausting labor in the tropical heat and mud. Every meter of the Culebra Cut and every cubic meter of the Gatun Dam was paid for with sweat, blood, and lives. On the 15th of August, 1914, the Panama Canal was officially opened. The first ship to pass from ocean to ocean was the steamship Ancon. The world changed instantly. The journey from New York to San Francisco, which had previously taken almost 2 months, was now reduced to 10 to 12 days. Global trade gained a new main route. Military strategy was also completely transformed. By the beginning of the 21st century, the old locks could no longer handle modern giant ships. In 2016, new and much larger locks were opened.
Okay, Peter, let's take this from here. And where are we?
Yeah, so
While we are talking about this, why this is important, we're trying to set some tune here to let you know what's possible, okay? And anything that you think is impossible is possible, depending on how much you're trying to put into that, okay? We went to space. When people say it was impossible, then this is like John F. Kennedy is telling, oh, we can go to space, we can do this. Space make possible me and Peter sitting in 2 different states and having a conversation. Space make possible you sitting in Liberia and I'm able to call my grandma on the farm. Space made that possible to orbit, okay, and take satellite into space. A young man from way in the 60s, before any of us were considered, all right? So we're telling you, start opening your mind. And this is why we bring these things to you. Peter, I'm going to let you take it from here and then go ahead.
yeah, no, great segue. I think that this is very, very important for our country, and this is a very important conversation. Innovation, ingenuity is the what's possible, like you said, is what's important, right? And that's already what education is. Education is not necessarily just factual recall, just knowing facts and regurgitating facts back. It is, can you synthesize information? Can you think? How can you make this fit in that? The parallel to what we are talking about in Liberia and how that connects to us is, here's a country who that everyone wants to come to, right? And things were not always as it is. We look at America as the world greatest, largest economy, but it wasn't always like that. This country went through the Great Depression. Country went through another depression in the late 1800s. When they look at a project and says, we need this done, what they ask, like you just talked about John F. Kennedy, is not what's hard, is how can we make that work? The parallel we have to our country is, last week we talked about the fact that this government that we have lack innovative thinkers. And mostly it's because they haven't studied other countries. They are looking to reinvent the wheel of problems that have already been solved by other countries and other areas. There is nothing in Liberia that we are going through that another country, another place haven't resolved. Panama Canal is an example of that. This canal was first initiated by the French all the way back in 1889. Okay, they didn't have the technology that we have now. 1889, this canal was very, very difficult to create and build, but they knew the importance of this canal and what the possibility was. The French were the same people who built the canal in the Suez Canal in Egypt just years prior. So they were experts at doing this. They had went through a lot to build canals, and they felt like they understood it. 10 years later, after almost 25,000 people died, they had to abandon the project. America, being the innovators they are, the same reason they went to the moon, knowing that how important this canal would be if they could be successful in building it, came now took over in 1904. Okay, under the president at the time, who was Roosevelt, and they built this canal, but it was not easy. Again, the reason why the French had to abandon the canal is because of how difficult it was. Yellow fever, landslide, and mosquitoes killing people of malaria. People were dying and dying and dying. Okay, when America took over, they lost almost 6,000 men for the same reasons. So what did America do? And this is where the link to what Cummings is talking about when he talks about nation building comes in. What did they do? First thing they did, how can we conquer the plague of mosquitoes? What these people did was they looked to see how can we eliminate, how can we limit how much mosquito contact humans can have. The first thing they did was, okay, maybe we can build living quarters where people are not as exposed to mosquito when they sleep. So they came up with different screens, and they made sure that sitting water was drained, because that's what mosquito need a steady water, sitting water to breed. They bred bats. They bred different fish that would eat the larvae of the mosquitoes. So what they did was they were very innovative about that. Okay. And they created this thing called DDT, which was spray. That is important. It's not really important to the story. What's important, the link to the story, is the fact that they look for ways to overcome whatever obstacle that was in their way for them to accomplish what they know they needed to accomplish. We need to be innovative thinkers. This is why we need not just, when we say an educated person, not just a person that has information, but a thinker, someone who's innovative. There are a lot of issues, a lot of obstacles that we face in Liberia. Mosquitoes is one of them. Let's talk about that. When you talk to Cummings, one of the things that he talks about is preventative medicine in Liberia. Not just building an army of doctors and being intentional about that. He talks about how we should build an army of engineers, but we need to go into preventative medicine. You need to make sure, for example, in Liberia, what are some things we could have done for preventative medicine? Instead of worrying about buying yellow machines and cars for different government agencies, how about we make sure we inoculate our kids and people of malaria? They could take the vaccination. There are vaccinations for that right now. Human development, focus on that. And this is the problem of this government that we're going to keep repeating. This government does not prioritize the people. Countries aren't built like that. And this is what we're trying to scream from the top of the mountains. You need to focus on the people first. But the problem with that is that doesn't give them a kickback. It doesn't give them a quick way to have money put in their pockets. We need to build schools. We need to make sure that our people are learning skills that we're going to need to build the countries, our plumbers, our builders, our engineers. We need people who are doing drywall. We need people who are doing flooring. We need all these skills for Liberians to take over the economy. Those things require that the government spend money on people. The Panama Canal is being built. This government says we need to eliminate mosquitoes. Okay, we need to cut through mountain and ranges to get this canal through. How are we going to do that? Liberians, the government is not doing that. We're not focusing on what can we do to develop our people. This is a crust of everything we say about this government and all the criticism. They are not focusing on uplifting Liberian people. And that's not how you build a country. You don't build a country by not focusing on building schools and educating your people, making sure healthcare, making sure they're dwelling, their housing. Instead of breaking down their homes, you should be building homes for them. You should be making sure that the economy is run primarily by Liberians. We're not doing those things. We're instead signing contracts to have our gold extracted on an industrial scale by foreigners, and we're having a president use their planes to commute to where he wants to go to some party event. We're not focusing on building Liberians first. We aren't doing that, and that's the issue. When you're building a nation, you first focus on building the people. The pattern has been repeated over and over and over again. There is no country in the world that focused on spending millions of dollars on building highways and buying cars for government officials, or just traveling around the world, or spending $5 million on lobbying at this stage in their development. You first look to see how do you human capital develop, and then you look to see how do you create some form of export economy. We're not doing that. We are totally off the path. And I like the Panama Canal story because of just how difficult it was, to a point where another nation abandoned the effort to build the canal. But America didn't do that. And if we're going to grow as a people, we must speak truth to power. We must make sure that the government is doing what they're supposed to do. And those who claim to be leaders or want to be leaders, we must make sure that they have the information that they need. Okay. And if they give you hostilities because you're trying to tell them, you cannot shy away from that. That's part of it. There are people, again, we have a country like America that went to war and people died. So if it's just people calling names, although they will kill you in Liberia for speaking truth to power, they put Prophet Key in jail. They got rid of Geket. So they don't want to hear the truth. They don't want to be told that they're lying. They don't want to be told that they're con men, but they don't have the information that's needed to build the country. And right now, they're simply wasting money on frivolous projects and trying to thumb their chests and to pretend like they're doing things they're not. If Liberian government was truly focused on human capital, on building the nation, they would have focused on human capital development. This is the pattern that every nation has done throughout the world, throughout world history. No other path. Focus on the people, build the people, and the people built the country.
Thank you, Peter. Let me add my voice a little bit. Folks, today is not my talking day, it's Peter talking day. It's difficult to talk, but that's the service that we sign up for. Yeah, Peter, thank you so much for that information. That was on point. Yes. I hear Liberians who do not understand or who are trying to process. One thing that we must understand that we all can qualify somebody and say this is a critical thinker is by the way you interact, not just listening and being a yes ma'am or a yes sir, but being someone who question everything. Those who changed the world, they were people who question everything. Why does the world work the way it works? Before we said the earth was round, then it was flat, then it was this, then it was that. When Hubble created the first telescope, there were also people who can say there's certain thing that cannot be done to that telescope. That was our end. That was the advancement of man. But here we are. Man have gone to moon. Man have gone to space. men have put satellites upon satellites in space. I think the last I checked, Ghana were putting satellite in space. America and Russia were creating competition among themselves. When China came and decided they wanted to work with America at this on the space project, America said no. China said thank you. We're gonna go back. In what took America 60 years, it took China 1 year. You know why it took China 1 year? Because China invests in education. In China, here are the layers of respect. Whatever God they worship, if it's Buddha, if it's however you call it, whatever they worship, next to that are intellectuals, educated folks, artists, let's just say word changer. That's how. Education for them, they believe is the easier way to mobility. It's the easier way that you can change your nation. Okay? That Peter rightfully put. Every nation that we have studied so far, okay, I was not into education. I've been in education about the last 10, 11 years. Peter have been in it forever, okay? I was into telecommunication, computers, business, and then I always told people, when I went to tech school, I did not have the broader knowledge that I have today, because the way the world lives or have functioned or come to. When I decided to study history, I got a different kind of insight that kind of opened my mind and opened my soul. So the way I think, I mean, I've always been inquisitive. Even as a child, I was the black sheep of my family. I always challenged my family what they were doing, what they were doing. Why was I not allowed to go on the beach on Sunday? Okay. And you know your African parents, then you might know say, because I say when I go there. Okay. But slightly my mom was different, you see, because that way young girls go pick up old men to be abused, or to be, my mom would say, blink to be PP on. I want nobody to PP on you. Okay. And I thought that was harsh. I thought that was, kind of devastating. But she wanted me, she was painting a picture to me that was supposed to scare me. And it did to some degree. Okay. Even at that, I still wanted to find out myself, Peter. I still wanted to go see what other people were doing on the beach on Sunday. And we live right next to the beach. But let me bring this here. Nowhere, I think in essence, Peter is also saying, nowhere that is worth going is easy. You cannot be inconsistent. You have to be determined. You must be undeterred. Okay. You must put in the work. You must make the sacrifice. And what are some of the sacrifices America have made? Without knowing whether we're going into malaria, dysentery, the people died, the engineer died, but they wanted to see this through. What was the outcome they were looking for? How was that going to help America? Instead of the world for going around all around the world through Africa and other places in Asia before coming this way, it was going to cut it's just the same thing with the Strait of Hormuz. Okay, it was going to cut the trip shorter. Okay, now let's say, because Liberian people will say, you're talking, hey, America built roads. That is not a true statement. America had walkway. America transported most of their goods that built their nation by boat, steamboat. Then they started creating ship. Then they built railroad. Okay, you call what we call snail mill. It was where the people are on the horseback to deliver meals. They created a system of delivery, the mailboxes, the mailing system, a means of communication. The means of communication to stay in contact. That's why when you come to places like Georgia, okay, every city is 1 day walk hours. 1 day. So if you left one city to go to another city hall, it must be, if you're working, even if you're working 2 miles an hour, it will be within a 1 day period. That's how, if you see, when you got to ask people why people do what they do. The why is always important. We as educators, We have our own why. What is my why? I want to impact lives. I want to live even 100 years while I'm gone. You know how I live? I live in my students, their children, their children. That's how I live. When I go to the mall and the child I don't remember anymore, children I don't remember, run to me and say, Miss Martin, you were my science teacher. Miss Martin, you were my social study teacher. Miss Martin, I never liked social study or science, but you made me love it. Miss Martin, that's my why. To impact, to change lives, to live beyond my physical existing. So, Peter, I'm going to leave you with this right here. We don't do what we do, or we don't criticize because we hate Liberia. Let me bring this in. You see how you took onto the pastor calling out our president that you are work out, that instead of your leaders and people, somebody came on my post and says unpatriotic, instead of your leaders redirecting that conversation to say, listen, we don't need to insult, we don't need to curse back. I can say here, I don't know, say Dr. Adoye, whatever his name is, and call out prophecies that he had made before that did not come to pass. Okay? But the last time that Paula White said Joseph Boakai will win the election, you were sharing and telling us that is the law, that is the gospel, and we must obey. Everybody should fall in line. So everybody will not sing your praises. It's not being patriotic. Are we confused to some degree? Yes. Because look at what we are doing. Number one, we spent over $5 million in agreement that we are going to be spending. We reported what is compulsory for us to report, which is the 1.2 million. Here is another confusion. When George Weah decided to hire the firm that is owned or led by Bakari Seller, a Black American guy, we, including myself, the UP people said it was not necessary at this point. What we needed to do is, in fact, we went to the point and said the 16 unit or how many ever unit we have built, it should be donated to transferred. The people from West Point, it needs to be their home. All right. Now you are not asking that. We cannot move the goalpost because we like or dislike a person. What is their agenda? Okay. What is the agenda of the policy? Policy meaning, what are the guide or the decision that guide where we are going? Where are we going? Do you know, you who cursing all over on Facebook, the president get up in the morning and say, y'all will balance. The president get up in the morning and say, y'all will shut up. The person get up one morning and say, y'all start barking at dog. And you think it is okay for and somebody call it breaking bracket. I paid my time. I came to this country with no mother, no father. Okay. I worked my tail out. I worked 3 jobs to go to school. Yes, I went to school as an educated woman, as an educator, as an experienced woman who have lived for almost 60 years, who have traveled the world. I have a responsibility to the next generation to be clear, concise. Them. What are we doing that says we're going to go to our next stage? It's not bringing in 319 machines. We didn't build all of the state in America at the same time. There's still state in America that do not have 6-lane highways, depending on the commerce, where you're producing. Okay, so Peter, I will stop here.
No, I'm just take off where you left. Yes, Andy, it's very important. So the question is, what else could we have spent the money on? This is why
Yes.
I want to contention is what else could the money have been spent on? Yes, Andy, you just talked about $5 million. I'm not sure if the entire listening public or people who will listen later on understand. You're talking about the lobbying. Joseph Boykai's government is paying $5 million
About
in
5
excess
million.
of $5 million, about $5 million to lobby the United States government. They have reported 1.2 million. That's the mandatory minimum amount that they're paying. There are other services that must go into that
Yes.
adds evens up to 5 million. No one says there is something wrong with lobbying. No one says other countries don't do that. What we are saying is, what else could that $5 million have been spent on that could better help the people, that could better develop the nation? Do we have an adequate enough relationship right now? Whereas that could have waited. I'll give you an example, and we're going to talk about the highways, and you talk about the 300 somewhat yellow machines that's being brought in.
Mm-hmm.
No one says that highways aren't important. When you misconstrued what is being said and say we are saying that highways aren't important, you're creating what's called in logic a straw man. You're trying to create, that means you're creating an argument that makes it easy for you to argue against. Okay, you're being dishonest. You're being disingenuous. The reason you're doing that is because you know you're wrong, or you don't have enough information to defend the actions that you're taking. Let's talk about the highways, and then we're going to come back to lobbying. America did not invest heavily in highway. Neither did Singapore, neither did South Korea. We mention these countries because these are countries that are recent countries, especially countries like Singapore. What similarities do we have with Singapore? The similarities is this. Singapore had a lot of ethnic issues.
Yeah.
Singapore had over 80% illiteracy rate. Singapore was completely dependent on imperialists or outsiders to take care of them, just like we are beholden to America. They were a country that came out of nothing. Their population is similar to ours, about 5 million people. When they decided that they were going to grow, this is a country that came from being poorer than Liberia to now their standard of living is higher than that of the United States. As a matter of fact, they have one of the highest rated passports. That means anyone from anywhere you're Singaporean, you can travel anywhere because they know if you were to leave Singapore, you are a high level person, and you're going to be
you're not going to stay in other people's country.
Even if you do stay in other people's country, you're going to be a major contributor. For you to leave Singapore and want to go someplace else, you're not doing that. If you were to leave Singapore, it's because you're doing so much better, and the standard of living was so much higher in Singapore. America did not build highways till after World War II, people. After they saw what Hitler did in after the war in Germany, throughout Europe, how he was able to get his troops to places really fast. This is where the highway system came from. So they did not spend, the United States, this big old country, the number one economy in the world, did not spend a bunch of money on building highways. They had local ways that were built by individuals. No one's saying that we don't need highways. We don't need roadways, because those are the straw man arguments that these people make. Are you saying that we don't need to get medication to people in the interior? Who's saying that? We're saying that there are more efficient ways to do that. How about you talking about people in the interior? How about you build real hospitals, accessible hospitals for those people? There are many other ways to get these people to emergency services without having to spend over however many millions to buy those equipment that have to be maintained, especially in a dusty country. I wrote a whole post about that. Okay, they need specialized mechanics for those equipments that we don't have. They need specialized facilities, and they're going to need parts because they break. The electronics can go bad. We don't have the facilities to facilitate having this equipment. So now they're going to be another burden to the country just like Joseph Boycott is, right? They're going to be a burden to the country. Secondly, we have waterways. And this is what Yaseni was talking about. We are so blessed with over 5 different waterways that goes from south to north, north to south, that we could use for transportation. No one says that those waterways are now ready for major transportation, but we can make them ready, is what we're saying. And it'll be so much cheaper. Cheaper. We could have created highways. And guess what? America is not the only place that use canals. England did the same thing. Again, America used railroads. Why? Because it was cheaper. So did Singapore and South Korea, because those are cheaper if you talk about just moving goods around the country to build and maintain than doing what we're doing with highways. The point we're making is we don't have innovative thinkers. And that's part of education. Education tells you not necessarily always what to think, what the facts are, but how to think, how to problem solve, how to synthesize information. And the posture that this government and the people who ran to the front of the line to lead takes when someone's trying to correct them is the problem here. They become information and conversation terrorists, and they expect you to run away from them. They become bullies. That's the problem we're having. If it was just a policy debate that we could have had, great, let's have it. Let's talk about facts because we all care about our country. This is not what these people are doing. The $20-30 million that we are taking to buy those equipment, the claim that we're building highways, we could have done what is supposed to be done, which is human capital develop. We could have built schools for our kids. We could have trained an army of builders and painters and plumbers. We could have done that. We could have got the next generation of engineers and people and doctors and teachers. We could have used the money for that. You guys misspent this money with no plans on how it's going to be paid back to increase our credit rating from things that we might need in the future, especially since we have a world that is moving towards AI, artificial intelligence. We live on the water. Artificial intelligence is going to require water. It's going to require, because you got to cool down the computers. We should be talking about how to prepare our people to take advantage of those things. We're not doing that. We're instead spending money on equipment and cars and trips for the government. This is the problem. This is a problem we're having. And when that is pointed out to people within the government, they become rude and disrespectful about it. And they expect people just to shut up. But we aren't going to shut up. And some of us you can't make shut up. If anything, you're just going to continue to start wars. And I'm not saying, when I say war, I'm not just saying necessarily with weapons, but you create this toxic environment, whereas there is no real conversations that can happen about what is happening and where we ought to be doing. Let's look at the things that this government has done so far when it first took over, right? So we claim we're building an overpass bridge. What value is that adding to the economy? What do we need first in Liberia? Everyone knows the economy is run by foreigners. When we say the economy is run by foreigners, we simply means that the major goods and services within the country is run by people and owned by people who will remit the money out of the country. It's not their foreign status that's a problem. It's what happens to the money that is supposed to stay in the country and circulate. What happens to that money? Well, the money that we sent, because it's a capitalistic system, they dare to make profit, and the profits are going to be re-remitted out the country to their people as it should. They dare to make business. So therefore, we should make sure those businesses are owned by Liberians that will spend the money in Liberia. What has our government intentionally done to make that happen? The answer is nothing. There's no plan. And there is no country that was developed without doing that. I'm talking about all the recent countries, from Rwanda to Botswana, and then you can go to Southeast Asia, you can go to Paraguay, Uruguay, those countries in South America, the United States, Central America, any country that was able to lift their country from abject poverty and absolutely raise the standard of living. First, they all follow a pattern. They first focused on their people. They focused on if they had a small economy like we will because of our numbers, what do we have to create an export economy? Liberia is so blessed with so many things, including people. We can literally connect our economy back home to the diaspora. What intentionally has this government done to make sure that happens? Nothing. What has the government intentionally done to help with our healthcare delivery systems? Are we creating doctors and nurses? Are we paying for those people to get the education? What level of education? We're talking about, well, we need roads to get people to facilities. Do those facilities have equipment? Do they have oxygen machines? Or do our people have access to healthcare that they can afford? Or are people dying in the lobby because they don't have money to pay? Our question is, why is that not the priority of the government? Because it should be. Everything else that you guys are doing is a waste of money, and it's a distraction. No one claims you're doing absolutely nothing. What we are saying is the things you're doing are frivolous, and it does not lead to nation growth. And that's the problem we're having. The problem we're having with you is you haven't studied how other nations were built. There's a pattern there. And this is affecting people's family in a very adverse way. And it's not okay. And we can't sit back and watch you keep doing it and making excuses and then trying to destroy anyone who dares speak up. There's a pattern here. If you're going to run to the front of the line, I was close on this, Cindy. If you're going to run to the front of the line of leadership that is going to affect the lives of other people's family, you better damn sure know what you're doing. As it stands now, we can all clearly see that you have no idea what you're doing. And that is not okay, because people's lives are being affected in a major, major way.
Thank you, Peter. Folks, again, I'm here. I apologize for us not coming on yesterday, since we have a lot of people here. Those of you who tuned in, we want to say thank you. I had a major surgery, and Peter knows about that. And he said, yeah, until you feel better, just take your medication, take care of you, and then we're going to come on. And I told him today we could come on. So we're here because there's just a lot going on. And it showed you that we're coordinating, we're collaborating. We care a lot about our country. And sitting out here 2 hours, 3 hours, if you put whether both of us make an hour, if I don't work out with me, we have hourly wages. We are losing a lot of money. So if this is about money, we wouldn't be here. But it have to do with the love of our country and the hope of our future, of our children in Liberia. That's why we show up. That's why you show up. Now, let me say this. Peter talked about the waterway. The other day, we pulled out the map on the waterway here on Liberia. Maybe the next time we come back, we're going to put that map up. Okay. During the corona, the roads were bad. The road was shut down. I remember when Alexander Cummings reached out to, at the time, President George Weah, to say, listen, I'm going to work with you so we can make sure our people are safe, our people stay afloat during this corona. George Weah was gracious enough. I can't, he was gracious enough to say, you know what, Alex, come on, I will work with you, although he went to do his own thing. And Mr. Cummings took the gesture that was accorded him because he didn't want to step in front of him, all right? And all of you know, the food that was shipped to the south and southeastern area, they used boats. They used the waterways. They used the waterway to take food to Maryland, to take food to Riverside, to places that County Ken and all of those places. That's what they use. Okay. So it is important for us to understand how have all of these other nations initiate the building process. What did it do? And I will say this again in my Alexander Cummings voice, in my own voice. When you build the people will build the nation. If you build your people will build the nation. Here is why. Peter talked about capital flight, all right? And I hear Liberian people try to compare America with Liberia. It's not the same. The first group of people who came here and created the colony, before they created the colony, they came here for market to find raw material. The American travel had always been, or the European travel had always been raw material. America was not the first to even come here. You have Lewis and Clark, then you have Fernando de Soto, who said he came to look for God, gold, and glory. Okay, that's what he came out for. What we did here, even during the war, World War II, as America built the flight, they built more ships. Okay, they used the waterway because you can drive from here to go to Europe. Yes, you can go through Africa and all of that and do that, okay, but you can't. So you need the waterway. Okay, it's the easier way. So when I hear what people say, it can be done. Okay, the water bad. Most of the people who navigated the water in the United States, they know the area. This was not their home. They came from Europe. The Indian used the waterway. They learned how to build a little canoe, the raft boat, and little boat to move around from different clans to clan. Where I sit right here, okay, the Chattahoochee is down there, okay? And this is the Creek land. The tribe called Creek, this is their land, okay? So we are saying to you, while you build your God, because you don't want to listen, is here's how other nations have done it. Singapore has over 500 billion. I didn't say million. They have a little over 6 million population. The whole country is the size of Mangibi. It's small. Okay? They have no natural resources. They experience war like we did. Okay? Look at us. They follow like everybody else. The blueprint is out there. The first thing is they invested in their people. And let me repeat what I always say, and I will say this, then Peter, you can come in. Liberia has not created her own middle class. You're either an abject poor or you're rich. A majority of the rich people in Liberia, 98%, okay, 98% of the quote unquote rich people in Liberia, if you check their background, either they work for government, their family work for government, their close friend work for government, since 1822. and the money stays in the family. All right. The second group will be the one that emerged during the war, and like the Carnegie, like the Rockefeller, they were bootleggers. Let me say the Kennedys, they were bootleggers. Let me tell you what I mean bootleggers. Most of them sold diamonds. When the government was selling theirs, they were collecting theirs and paying their dues and selling theirs. They were selling gold. They were selling our forest, their timber. Okay, they were doing undercover. All right. Some of them now, they work in government because the French are government official. Out of the last government or the one before, the money that they stole, they can't just spend it. So now they're washing it. How are they washing it? They're building, they got building projects, they're investing in businesses. Listen, why I wouldn't do that, I'm saying, what did I just say? The Kennedys, the Kennedy, what do you call it? The Rockefeller, even the Chase, all of these people. All right, that is the group. Now, the point we're making here is, even if we are not in a seat, we are Liberian. We listen, you get the best possible minds, and do your own research. But what we are doing now is not the path forward. That's what we're telling you. It is not the path forward. So when we said this to the young people, this is your future. We said to the women who are at the childbearing age, those who have young children, Liberian women have worked hard. Okay, majority of our native educated children, I'm not saying our father had not done theirs. Women have worked in the marketplaces, cooked and sold, plant cassava, rice, sold it. They and the family, towns will make sacrifice in the rainy season with no food, because wherever they harvest, they have to sell it to send their children to school, because the farmer, that is the easier way to mobility. Education is the easier way to mobility. You don't have to be stationary, or you don't have to be static. That's the point we're making. Now, let me say this. When I was in school as a 12-year-old for baptismal class, my pastor at the time told me, yeah, whenever somebody tells you there is no God, don't argue with them, because you can't prove anything to them. You are not God. They will have their own encounter. We're talking to 50% plus one. All right? No, I will not let your booth for you to stand on. I will speak the truth for those who want to listen. You know, the funny thing is, when I used to run campaign for for voting, you have to do voting education, go to people door, knock at door. I saw some people who said to me, I don't believe my vote matters. In fact, I don't believe in government. My vote don't count. But I believe it's Aristotle that said, if you do not believe in government, you will be ruled by your inferiors. And that's just the way it works. Okay? So, and that's a stupid. Look at that crazy. Your craziest boys have shown up and being crazy. I'm gonna stop here, Peter. I'm gonna let you take it because they have been distracting. I'm not even talking to them. But go ahead. Go ahead, Peter.
Well, that's part of the reason I don't read comments during.
No, I'm not even listening to it.
Don't listen to them. So I want us to talk about.
Yes.
Yeah, they don't know when to stop. But I want us to talk about what is going on. What have we done so far? So let's start here. You talk about being the chair. What's the purpose of being the chair? What chair was? Well, the chair is the rulership chair, right? The power over the lives of other people's family members.
Mhm.
So why would you want to be in the chair? Well, there are different reasons you want to be in the chair, right? It could start with the prestige of the fact that you get to tell people what to do. Or you could be in the chair or in the rulership position because of the spoils, right? The money that you will make and not able to make the access to wealth that you normally wouldn't have if you were not in government, especially in a country where there is really no economy, like Liberia. Or you could be in that position to be a people's servant. The question is, do we have people's servants who are there, or do we have people who look down on other people? Everything starts from the top. Let's look at the president and the way he talks to and about his people who have grievances. This started a long time ago, before he even became president. Is there anyone in their right mind who would say that this man is a uniter? Is there anyone in their right mind who can give example and demonstrate how this man is a problem solver and looks to reconcile the country? He can tell you what the problems are in the country. He cannot and have not ever offer any real solutions to any of them. Before he became president, when he was running for president, besides the fact that he was in the back telling Prophet Key, it's okay to talk about our mothers and our the leaders and we as mom and his wife in the most vile and primitive and grotesque way. Part of the reason I have absolutely no respect for this person, and it angers me when I think about it. What grandfather does that? Say, keep doing that. It's good. Talk about Mr. Cummins's backside and with car roads. Go ahead, do that. Talk about we as moms' private parts. Same man showing up to courts and saying this man that who has been nothing. I'm talking about Cummings now. When they took Cummings to court, Cummings who have been nothing but kind to this man and just felt like leadership, he felt like he would be better for the country and told people he's a strange package and he didn't know him. He didn't know him when he went to court and try to get him thrown in jail for forgery. This is the leader. This is the man who is calling Liberian people who are not in the chair, don't have the power he has to change lives. Dogs, they're barking dogs. Or you guys keep talking, you'll get over it. Get used to what you are. This is an unsophisticated man. I don't want to focus on him right now because that's not really what the conversation is about. The conversation is about what's going on and what should be going on. Well, what should be going on is what Cummings talks about. We need to human capital develop. We need to stop the leaking bucket. We're not going to stop repeating that. Liberians must control our own economy. The government must invest in that effort and be intentional about giving them the skill set and the support that they need to make that happen, to own those stores and those businesses that's running Liberia. Outside of that, you can put $1 trillion into Liberia. It is simply just going to leak out. This is what Cummings is talking about when he speaks of the leaking bucket. When he talks about preventative care, typhoid and malaria, what can we do besides inoculating our people with vaccinations? That's another thing we should probably be putting money into, right? Vaccinating our kids and our old folks and our people, period. And be intentional about that. Okay. Making sure we don't have too much sitting water since we don't have too much sewer system in the country. How we make it a community thing. Our government is not intentional about that, is what we're saying, because they don't prioritize human development. They don't prioritize building the people. They look down. The reason not even talking about this man, how he talks down to people, is because I'm saying there's a pattern here of him not caring about how our people are doing. He only cares as far as it benefits him and the people like him. When we talk about schools, let's talk about schools. They're not intentionally creating better qualified teachers. We're not building STEM schools. And when I speak of STEM schools, we're talking about schools that focuses or emphasizes science, math, engineering, technology. Those schools, it is extremely vital, important, imperative that Liberia prepare the next generation who will help us as we move into this new industrial revolution of our people who are taking care of us when we are old. We're not preparing them. So where are the STEM schools? Instead of buying cars, instead of wasting money on private jets, and when you come to America, police details that cost hundreds of thousands of dollars, we should be investing in our people. You're not intentionally doing that. And that's a detriment to our country. You worry about the $10 million home that you're building with the money from the country. You didn't earn this money. You wanted things that you saw other people have. So you take the money and do it and then pretend as if you didn't know those buildings were being built. What could we have done with $10 million? How about we could have built 20 hospitals by now and got a bunch of teachers already on their teaching course and doctors and engineers? What else could we have done with that money? That's the issue. You're not focused on developing people. You're focused on developing yourself and your family and people around you, because your intentions to be in leadership was never about people service. And we're not going to continue to stop talking about that. When the ambassador to Liberia during Weir's time talked about the indignation the government must have for people in the interior as he looks at it. Do you people now understand that it's shameful? It's as if you're wearing Gucci and you're wearing all these expensive things, but your babies don't even have diapers. Your kid don't have food to eat. This is the equivalent of that. There are people coming to our country, and all you guys are worried about is aesthetics, what the country looks like. Oh, look at, we clean up the road. Yeah. Oh, look at, we don't have any Zogos. Did you create a drug treatment facilities or got professionals to help them with their mental health? Where did it come from? Or did you just rid the city of those people just like Charles Taylor did? Everything is pretentious. So if you want to make claims that, oh, we don't have all these Zogos around, where did they go? They need intensive care. Who's caring for them? Where did the professionals come from? Did you pay for that? Did you put that in your budget? You didn't do that. You didn't build homes for the people. You broke down their homes. You haven't created jobs, private sector jobs. You haven't economically empowered the Liberian people. So you're not doing anything that really matters. All you're doing to this point is you're spending money. And you have your Monrovia City Corporation going around taking people's businesses they're selling in wheelbarrows. And you're enforcing draconian laws about noise level. How about you focus on real things? Like show us the army of doctors and engineers that your policies are creating. Show us how you plan on generating money, capital for the country. What's that plan? What's a job creation plan that will create these new builders? You went and got a guy, another foreigner, although he's African, it doesn't matter. And now he's supposed to build homes in Liberia. Where's the money going to go that we pay for those homes? Isn't that money going to be taken out the country to another country? How did that just help Liberia? You've got Ellen Johnson Sirleaf lobbying for foreigners with unlimited cash that the government's going to give them to make them citizens so they can buy off our property and our land. What are these people? The same type of people from the True Whig Party who looks down on people. Again, people, there is a pattern here. These people who have run to the front of the line, the character assassins, the one who looks to silence people, put Prophet Key in jail, make sure Yeke loses his job, and silence anyone who dare dissent. These are the same type of people who have always been there. They don't care about people. It could be demonstrated they don't care about people. If they did, they would have studied how countries were built and tried to follow the blueprint that other African nations and other nations, but we're focused on Africa, poor nations with small population, with less resources, have done. Have they told you the plan to create jobs? Or they just tell you how much they're going to spend on something else? Or they're just going to push people off the street and say, look how better they're doing. How many recycling plants have you created? What's the schedule to pick up trash? What's the system you built in there? The sanitary system. Have you done anything that has to do with central plumbing? Or are people still digging septic tanks to go to the bathroom? Do you think that's a country? This is the best we have to offer? This is the best we have? You guys have an indignation for our people and our country. This is beyond hate for us. And these are the people who run to the front of the line, Yasendi. They're literally doing project over project over project, wasting resources when that could better be applied in other places. They will quickly make the excuse, we can't use waterways because those waterways are not passable. Who is supposed to make them passable? Isn't that the job of the government to do that heavy lifting? No, you lack the innovation. That's why you haven't done it. Yes, we could have boats as ambulances to get those people. We could have those same things to get food from the interior. Even if you do get food from the interior, which we're not even being intentional about building industrial farms, and you bring it to Monrovia, what difference does that make? That's not infusing money into the country. What's the plan to infuse capital into the country? You guys want to say disparaging things and use ad hominems and attack people? Well, number one, I'm here for it, and a few of us are here for that, okay, because you're not going to win in that. But secondly, intellectually, you don't have it. You're not going to keep hurting people's family and pretending like you're helping. You don't have the game plan. If you had a game plan, we would see the lives of our people being improved, not selectively giving money to a small group of very vocal people to silence them, or using the court systems or the police to silence them. An idiot told me today, oh, you said you wish Boyka was dead, or whatever you said, you're going to be in jail. Like, tell me what you would like me to show up at so you can put me in jail. This is the thing. These are conversational terrorists. These are people who will force you to be silenced. They are bullies. And that has not worked. This is where the Civil War came from. There are a lot of us who are not going to stop talking. The things that needs to be done in the country cannot be done when you have people who are quick, Yasendi, to run to making excuses for it not being done. We started this program talking about the Panama Canal. That project was being done by a European country, a French country. For them to abandon that project, don't forget, France was one of the countries that had colonies everywhere in the world. They had money. They had whatever the newest technology is, they had it. They abandoned this project because the project was too hard to do. America steps in and completes the Panama Canal. The malaria, the yellow fever, all the dysentery, all these things that was killing people, they were able to overcome. The same America was able to go to the moon. The same America went broke and created what was called a New Deal, focusing on people first. So after doing all that, America still went broke. How did it get from underneath poverty? Well, the government intentionally invested in people. Singapore did it. The Chinese did it. Vietnam is doing it. This is how you do. You need people who intentionally focuses on developing their people. Show me how is this government doing it? And Yasendi, I'll close here. The reason they aren't doing it is because that takes money away from them. It takes money away from them, their pockets, their sons having vacation, having celebrating their birthday on yachts. It takes that money away. The generator, they need the fuel money. It takes that away. Instead of these people saying, we are going to equip the homes. If you want to give these people electricity, these politicians electricity, so be it. I think they should pay for their own electricity, but that's besides the point. At which point do you say, you know what? Solar energy has become so prevalent in the world. Let's equip their homes with solar so we don't have to keep spending $36,000 to $40,000 a year on equipment, on generators, and redirect that money to our children and our women and our hospitals. The country, this money is not yours. You do not own a country. You're just the stewards. You're just the people who are in charge for now. And you're destroying lives. And you're not thinking outside the box. And you're looking to attack people. And the thing that discourages me is there are so many people who do not want to be involved in the conversation because they're afraid of the vile hate that will come out of these less thinkers, these Civil War thinking people. And because of that, we don't have our best minds at the table. But we need to keep pointing out the fact that they have no idea what they're doing. Every now and then they'll do something that makes sense. But for the most part, they're overtaxing our people. Okay, whether it's the stickers you have to have, the insurance, the helmet, the vest, the crossing the street, all these things. Now they're saying to people, if you don't develop your yard, if you bought property and yet to make money, they're not creating jobs. They're not infusing more money into the country. Oh, you have not yet built on this land. We're going to fine you so you can give up your land to make room for foreigners to buy up the land that they're advocating for. These are not good people, Yasin. These are people that revolutions are fought because of. And we need to point that out. This is clear as day. These are not good people. Okay. If I could see if they were intentionally making sure more money was available to people to do things. They're not. For them to make all these draconian laws, your music's too loud. You're on the street selling as if our people want to be in filth and dirt and poverty. They don't care about people. They're not intentional about human development. Therefore, we must, those of us who are in a position to and able to, anything short of that is cowardice. We must fight for our people. To me, this is our wars. Part of the reason why these people who went to war in America don't like a lot of the immigrant stuff. If you talk to a lot of them, they talk about the sacrifices that their ancestors or themselves made for you to just come here and just take it over. Well, the question is, those of us, the sound of my voice, what sacrifices are you willing to make for our country? If just being insulted by people on the internet is what you're not willing to take, then you're not a fighter. And I'm not saying everyone should be a fighter, but some of us are willing to do a lot more. Some of us who have dedicated our lives to human service, this is abhorrent to us, what's happening. And we need to keep talking and fighting about it. You're muted.
I was saying thank you, Peter. Again, folks, literally it's almost time for me to go get my meds. So I'm gonna finish up, then Peter can close us. Peter, you hit a point for me that I wanted to amplify. You know, when UNMIL were coming to Liberia at the almost the end of the Civil War, all the amputees that were in Monrovia or any part of Liberia for that matter, they were gathered, they were trucked, and they were buried alive, we're told. All of a sudden they disappear. I listened to a guy yesterday or the day before. I'm still in La La Land. I'll get to it, but I remember distinctly what he said, that they had about 200 ghettos, and now they have 0 ghettos. So the question that begs and answered for me is, as a human being, as a mother, as a daughter, as a sister, as a wife, as an auntie, as a grandmother, I want to know, where did the people go? Where did the 300,000+ and growing by leaps and bounds, drug infested, okay, strung up on drugs, where did it go? I like to find out, where did it go? Now, if they're somewhere, where are they? Where the plan? How many professionals do we have there to help them? This is not just a drug issue. And I also heard him say they're going to start arresting people who are doing drugs. There is, and I'm going to find that video and play it. There is a study that was done where they put rats in a little place, and they put drugs in there, and they had nowhere to go. So they just did the drugs, were high. Then, no, that was one. Then they put other rats within the same box. They give them food, they give them place, they give them more room. And the rats will go towards the cheese. Well, on the other hand, the first experiment, the rat did not go for the cheese, but it went for the drug. Okay. And somebody will say, the question, because Liberians have to always find a counter, somebody will say, what's about the rich people that do drugs? Sometimes the rich people that do drugs have reached their zenith. Nothing is fun anymore for them. They need something else to have fun with. They're not doing it because they're desperate. They're doing it because they need to be entertained, or because of mental health. But largely with us, it's mental health, because most of these kids survive the war. They are perplexed. They have no hope, because some people have no job. Like yesterday, a young man posted and said he's tired, he's going to go rest. He had just finished his national exam. Speaking of national exam, I wanted to go there. The next minute, we are told he drank Lysol and committed suicide. I did not see the post until later, because normally people will inbox me where Dr. Richardson and I have been doing. A lot of people don't know this. We have reached out to countless amount of over a dozen people over the years. When I reach out to them, I find out where the problem is, how their life is bigger than wherever the problem is, and referred them to Dr. Richardson, where graciously she had been able to work with some of them without asking us for anything, and just talk life into them, counsel them and get it. I know there's one girl who's just sent me a flyer. She opened her own salon. This girl 2 years ago wanted to commit suicide. I'm not supposed to say these words loud on Facebook. Reach out to her, call her, have my daughter Rosa reach out to her and tell her what could be better. At some point, she have no place to live. I'm not going to say my part, the part that I play in that. The rest is she agreed to tell the story, she would tell the story. That would be her story to tell, it's not mine. And she and her child. Okay. And many other young people. Okay. So when you don't know where your next meal will come from, We don't know what your future holds. I saw a write-out from Rufus Berry this week. His niece, who is a doctor, have been working for almost a year and a half, working 60 and 80 and 90 hours a week, voluntary, promising her she will be on salary, no salary. She finished medical school. She's working in her country and no pay. Y'all know why most of us are talking? We teachers say we don't get paid enough for the work we do, and that's true. We don't get paid enough for the work that we do and the stress that we carry, because we're counselors, we're educators, we are role models. We're supposed to be. We are social workers. We are counselor that you will come to when you don't feel right. We are punching bags. We are nurses, because sometimes we have to administer depending on your class, what type of case you have in your class. Even if they're gifted, they may have IEPs. Maybe they're gifted, but they have medical issue. We have to be there. We have to read their profile. We have to be able to get emergency help for them if need be. We have to learn how to administer whatever emergency medication that they have, okay? And we're trained to do that. This is our area, okay? So what am I saying? A career is only beneficial. People only put themselves, no matter how they love it, you have to be also able to survive for it. So if a child goes into the medical field, does the sacrifice, the grinding and all of that, graduates and put in the time, the service to mankind, to her country or to his country. I've seen 2 girls just this week, and they're overwhelmed. They can't pay for their own apartment. They can't do the things that I call it. Our case in America, if that child is going out as a neurosurgeon, he or she knows in a year time after the residency how much money they're going to be making. In 2 years, they will know what it will be worth. In 3 years, they will know what it will be worth. They can project merely based on how much time they put in when they're going to retire. Most of them will get jobs even before they leave school. My niece, my little brother, daughter, who just graduated about 3 years ago, will be graduating, I believe, in December. Okay? No, in May. She already has a job. She already has a job. I'm just telling y'all. All right? So we're saying to you, I'm not here today to debate the leadership. I'm here to say what is possible. That's what I'm talking about. I'm here to say, those of you who are Christian, all right, that God put everything in your hand. He said, faith without works is dead. Majority of the nation around the world, the only nation that's an exception that is supposed to be religious, that is rich, is America. The rest of the world, most Swiss people from Switzerland are atheists. Most of people in Japan, they don't believe in one God. They don't have the Jesus God, and they don't have the Yahweh God. They don't. They chant Shintoism. They believe that everything is God. The earth is one. They believe that we, the country people, then, because when I was growing up, that it is. We believe in what's called animism, that we think that everything that is made, that God made, has life. And we should respect that, just like the Indian on this land. So tonight, I wanted to focus on the possibilities. What are we doing? Where are we headed? Are we spending our money in the right way? Are we going in the right direction? We can talk about the nuances about reaching out to people, about, bending as low as you can for people to walk, if that way will bring them on, or standing up tall in front of them with a smile to call them on board. We can talk about all of that, okay? One thing I know, from the inception of this journey, and Peter, this is my last thing I'm going to say. From the inception of this journey, when I stayed back and advocated, a lot of people came to me and said, oh, that person this, that person that person don't need to be. We started the 2 first people, that were Leo Mulva and Tai Wong Wei. And then they moved. Then the next group came, and we said, then the next group came. So while we hold those people accountable, we also have to hold our leaders that we are believing accountable to stand up tall and do the needful. I'm not putting in another direction. A lot of people say, oh, yeah, Cindy and what do you call it, ANC, she's the problem. I'm working in the back. I'm still talking. 2023, I was in Liberia every 3 months. I traveled Liberia, places that I've never imagined I would. Some things that I won't. Thank God I can still speak some sort of dialect, okay? I listened, I heard people say to people, oh, you get other people back of rice and you get our own, we'll see who will vote for you. They have to take them back of rice. Went to places where we started to bust cement and stuff for people to build school. I went back 6 months later. They had not even started. They're waiting for me to come so they can dig the hole. I told them, not possible. When you dig the hole, you start the foundation, you call me, I will help with the rest. Until then, you don't call me. So, Peter, other nations have done it. We're telling you what is possible. And to the young people, I think Peter Chronicle, and I have the little short video the other day. There is a video on YouTube. It's called "And the Children March Too." When Dr. King was taken to jail, when they protested, the older people were afraid because they knew they were setting for them. They would have gotten killed or jailed. The young people jumped through the window at the schools. They organized themselves. They took the streets. It brought the face of the world on America, the inhumane treatment that they were giving Black people. They were embarrassed. That's how they freed Dr. Martin Luther King. He slept in jail, waiting for the big people to show up. Where we became, the America we became, was saved by the children, the young people. When you talk about the Brown versus Board, that was teenage young people who wanted to change, okay? When you talk about Ruby Bridges, that's a 6 years old, raising the stone to stand up. Knowledge is power. You all know why the people in Albania are standing up? They have high literacy rate. Here it is. Your literacy rate and your GDP are directly correlated. What am I saying? Your intelligence level entwined with your nation development, or the wokeness or the awakening of your people, because knowledge is power. We have to ask this question. So for me, whatever direction you guys want to stay, I'm going to stay in what I know. I will continue to preach. I will continue to reach out. I will also continue to stand up and dispel what is untruth, okay? And educate people based on what I know. I'm not a technocrat, though I went to tech school, all right? At this point, I am an educator. That's what I am, and that's what I will do. And history rounds. It may be different faces, but the stories are all the same, just like what we call it. All animals are equal, but all animals are not equally equal, all right? That I'm going to leave it there, the animal farm. Peter, go ahead.
So yeah, first of all, thanks for the show, Cindy. I want to close saying this, okay? You talked about where we headed, okay? This is what this conversation is about, and we're going to continue to have the conversation. What is possible? What ought to be done? What we are saying is not our doing. We didn't make up these facts or stats. There is a way that our country is built. We are saying that our country is not following the pattern of progression. And they're making false claims that they are because they're purchasing machines. There are foundational things that must take place. I want to close pointing that out. we must first invest in our people. I assert the reason we're not investing in our people is because that takes away from kickbacks. It takes away from your government, your president buying a $600,000 car, two of them $1,200,000. It takes away from him building a $10 million retirement home. It takes away from that. I started off saying, why do people want to be in a chair? Are they there for human service? Or are they there for the prestige or the spoils that office, that position, that title brings them? It is abundantly clear that the people we have chosen as leaders who have manipulated a lot of people into believing that they're capable of doing the job, which is improving the lives of our people, are completely, utterly clueless as to how to do that. If they knew what they were doing, they would have demonstrated by this time that human development is number one. You would have seen by the way that they redirect their funds to people. They tell you things like, we're going to focus on agriculture, and the truth of the matter is they're spending less than 1% of their budget on agriculture. They do not care about agriculture. They say those words because they know that our people wants to hear them. Where are the schools being built? Where are the hospitals? Where's the massive vocational training for plumbers and mechanics and engineers? Where? I'm talking about where is it sponsored by the government, financed by the government? Where are the army of business people being put in place to compete with foreigners? Where? When are we going to invest in Liberian people? Why are we inviting foreigners in our country to build homes that Liberians can then buy and then the money be remitted out of the country? Why is that okay? Why are we not intentional about empowering Liberians economically? Why are we silencing dissent? Why? Those are the issues that we're talking about. When will you tell us how you're going to connect the diasporan community to the Liberian community back home? These are things other nations did. When are you going to tell us your job creation strategy? Are we going to invest in export economy? In which sector? When would that start? What's the timeline? These are things we're looking for. It's not true that our criticism is because the person we wanted did not win. The truth of the matter is, we knew the person who was winning didn't have what it took, and we just pointed it out. Had he come in and done the things that was supposed to be done, that has been done in other places, try and prove it, we would not be criticizing him. Maybe the people making those criticisms would, but not me. We say you guys lack innovation. You lack critical thinking. You lack creativity. This is why you make excuses. You lack vision. And the most infuriating thing about it is there are people that we vetted as citizens by listening to them and asking questions that we knew were more capable than the person who you selected, who is void of information. And you purposely and intentionally destroyed that person. We're saying we're not going to stand for that. We're saying this is the same exact thing you did when you brought guns to our country and murdered people so that you put in positions of authority over the lives of people that you were incapable of performing. We are no longer going to let this to to just continue and perpetuate that over generations. The change has got to happen. This is not about you, it's about our children. And you need to understand something. Some of us are willing to put everything on the line for our children. And do not, for 1 second, get fooled by the degrees or titles that we hold. It means nothing. You've got to lead if you're going to go to the front of the line. You've got to make life better for our people. You've got to know what you're doing because it's affecting us. And again, I'm going to close with this. To the young people, Liberia is not the first country to be stuck in poverty. Many, many other countries were. They were able to escape because their government was intentional about investing in young people. Even the United States, as great as the start was in the 1930s, this nation went completely bankrupt and people were starving in the streets. The way they dug out of that was a blueprint that many other countries have followed, from Far Eastern countries to South American countries to African countries. There's no other way around it. You invest in the people. You spend the vast majority of the money on the people. 40% human capital development, nation building is what South Korea spent. 37% Singapore. Okay. The country like Botswana, 20%, 13 to 20% on education. Burkina Faso right now, spending on building homes for young people. You don't sit there and tell them to do it for themselves when you leave scarce resources. We are saying your government is supposed to be intentionally investing in you, not in themselves, not walking around like big shots and not solving no big problems. If you want to be a big shot, you solve major problems. That's what big shots do. So we're not going to stop talking. Again, Yasendi, thanks for what you do. We'll continue to post. We'll continue to talk. We'll continue to shine light on their lack of ability. And no amount of ad hominems will stop a person like me and many of us from speaking truth right to your faces. So I thank you. And until next time, we'll meet again. But Liberia deserves better. Our children deserves better. Our old folks deserves better. And those folks should be the people we should be investing in. Those are the people. We should retire our old folks with dignity, and we should create a future for our young people. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you, Peter. It's good being here. So we're going to end this with Quincy G. Quincy B. Am I still mute? Yes, good. We'll talk in the back of some, how you call it. So let's do this. Quincy B. I love the young man. Quincy B. did this before he died, and he being dead same before the last election before this month. Yeah.
Say, I love it. Day and night break, everybody on the hustle. Some people know like peace, they want some trouble. Crime rates on the increase. The government can protect the people. Hold up, no justice for the poor. Yeah, look the way we're living. We treat one another unfair. Look the way we living. We treat one another unfair.